Yeah, so that was amazing internship experience. So that was your first opportunity, right? Like you took advantage of those networking opportunities, which is sometimes like a lot of students struggle to get those first opportunity, and especially being a student, it's also exciting as well as sometimes it's very stressful as well, getting that first opportunity or even networking. Like we have got some great tools like LinkedIn. So what are some of the tips that you would tell a student like who is in the same boat to start networking?
I mean, I definitely struggled at first, especially coming to London, because back in Romania, I knew people. There were a lot of, different people that I could go to and try to get an internship or them to introduce me to people. But here in London, the only people I knew were students who also weren't working anywhere and also didn't have any like real connections. So what I realized is that I should be using LinkedIn more. And I think that really helped me, because once you start connecting with people on LinkedIn and asking them for advice, you get much more out of your work. Um, and I think that's a really big part. I think more students should be active on LinkedIn. They should be posting, they should be commenting. I feel like that's one tip that I would give out to students at the moment. Definitely to just interact, and don't be afraid to message people. People are actually super nice and they're willing to help you as long as you make contact with them.
So sometimes, like a lot of times, it's students do not know whom to reach out to, and most importantly, whatever the field that you are wish to pursue in your career, I think that's where they can get started. Because at the end of the day, you might have like 1,000 connections, but you still don't know who is that right person who is going to help you find
Yeah.
that first internship or job. And sometimes you just need to keep it consistently working on it, because it's not just that you're going to have like 10 or 20 connections on the first week that you started. So it's a very long journey. So any experiences of that sort?
Yeah, I think what a lot of students struggle with is actually finding what they want to do, because until you really find your brand and your story and what you're targeting, it's very hard to connect with people, because it's almost like you're mindlessly chasing something and you don't exactly know what you're chasing. So I think maybe a really important aspect is to just find your goal, your short-term goals, and then try to go from there. Try to see people who have maybe been in that position before. So if you want to like a certain role in a certain company, try to look for those people and connect with them. Try to see what their past experiences were, and maybe try to imitate those in your own way or in your own life. Yeah, and I think that's what really changed for me, and how I was able to become more successful in my like search for connections and stuff, is when I really realized, okay, I think I want this job, and I'm gonna go and look at people who have done it. I'm gonna look at their past experience. I'm gonna connect with them, and I'm gonna ask for tips. Yeah, I think that was definitely a big thing.
I think that's a great idea, creating your own story even before reaching out to people. But sometimes even students might have struggle to even choose that path, right? Sometimes they got stuck, and we see a lot of students even changing majors, trying to figure out what's the best path or the things that they like. So, what would you tell people who do not like have an idea yet, but they're trying to connect with people and wanting to learn from their experience and maybe their guidance to even start from the ground zero?
Yeah, I mean, at such a young age, it's quite a lot of pressure to tell someone like, okay, choose what you want to do in life, because a lot of students probably are still confused. They haven't tried out a lot of options. But I think the most important thing in that scenario is just to go out and experience different things. So just take on so many projects, take on whatever would interest you, and stop doing things because there's a name to it. Do things because you actually enjoy them. Like for me, like I wanted to write a post on LinkedIn. I like posting on like Instagram. I like posting on LinkedIn. These are things I actually enjoy. And once I started doing more of that, I realized what I wanted to do, rather than doing projects because they would look good on my CV or things like that.
That's awesome. That's a great tip for all the students. So now coming to the storytelling piece of it, like how did you get into the whole storytelling, right? Like you seem to be an amazing person who creates these great stories, and you also really are passionate about telling these stories for big brands. So how did you get started in storytelling? The first thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that I like to tell stories through digital means. That's how I would describe things. And I mean, going through all the social media platforms, what I realized is that there's a very big problem because people post very long things. And I didn't like that because, you know, when you're reading online content, people only read about 30% of the things shown in front of them. So we have a short attention span, and especially people of my age, like Gen Z, we don't like to focus. Our attention span is maybe like 10 seconds long, especially since TikTok came along. Like that totally has ruined everyone's attention span. So yeah, when I saw this content, I realized that there's a gap and that needs to be rectified, and content needs to be short and appealing, and I wanted to help change that. And that's what I've been doing, basically telling stories and telling big ideas in as little words as possible.
So what are some of the lessons that you learned so far by doing it, by actually now you saw a problem, now you are trying to help solve it in this very short time? Like what are those things that, hey, I never thought of this, and I see a comment that is being posted on my blog post or whatever, a LinkedIn post, and hey, that's a great insight that I got. Like any experience of that sort?
Like I definitely, maybe the process of it, I realized how hard it actually is to make yourself concise, because when you write a piece or you write anything, you're very attached to those words and you feel um, like you want to write more, but it's the best writers are the ones that edit the most. So I would think like just try to be as critical of yourself as possible and like eliminate anything that doesn't need to be there. And at first I really struggled with writing that because sometimes there's things that I really want them to be in the content, but I'm just realizing that, people don't have time to read everything that I have to say. So I think that's one thing that I struggled with and figured out while doing.
That's awesome, because even that was the same pain point for me too. I'm so active on LinkedIn as well, and I see a lot of great content and students posting their the struggles or the pain points that they are going through, and I see a lot of great engagement with other people, really connecting to the story. It's not just how much you wrote, but it's like they wanted to support, they wanted to help, because and one thing that you just told, hey, people are nice, all you need to do is just ask them for help. And I think it's just amazing that lot of students are actually trying to post and share their stories. One of the key pain points that I have been hearing from students is they don't have a way to convert their story, their experiences into those stories that can create opportunities for them, right? So again, it's a common struggle. And I see from what you're saying just now is, hey, create on the go and learn from the experience. I think that's what you're saying. Hey, nobody is perfect, nobody is going to create that one little sentence or two and then get a lot of engagement on it. So recently you shared your internship experience. Can you share that story with us and what was going through your head, and then you posted something on LinkedIn which got great engagement? Let us walk through that process.
I mean, I would have never thought of posting on LinkedIn. It was not something I ever considered, but I actually took a class with a LinkedIn member. His name is Jonathan, and it's a LinkedIn content workshop. And more than anything, I feel like that course kind of motivated me to get my voice out there, because I was communicating with a diverse set of people and showing my work to them, and they really liked it, and they encouraged me to keep going And I shared this experience with them with the internship, and they were like, go for it, that's really well written. And I was expecting to get like maybe like 100 likes on this, because I didn't have that many connections. And then it all of a sudden went viral, and so many people were messaging me, and they heard me, and they also had the same struggles, and I was actually really impressed by that.
So what do you think like has really took that off? Is it just because like students are trying to like see themselves in your story, and a lot of students have the same experience?
Yes, I think it's definitely relatable. I think especially now with the current situation, like a lot of students are struggling to get an internship, and it's definitely been a struggle for me for like months now, because there's these more experienced people who have lost their jobs, and they're coming in for the internship positions, which should have been for students, but they're obviously taking the more experienced people, and that just leaves students and like young graduates at a huge disadvantage, because we can't get the experience we need, um, but at the same time no one will accept us, and no one will give us the experience we need to then progress into our career. And I think that's a really big problem, and a lot of students are also seeing that it's a huge problem, and that's why they also reacted to my post and kind of related to it.
That's just an amazing story, right? Like the kind of engagement that you got, and more importantly, everybody was able to relate to them. And especially like, yes, a lot of people are losing their jobs, and a lot of people are wanting help. And at the same time, like a lot of students are coming out of colleges. Like it's a complete different
Yeah.
story last year. If at the same time, right now the whole pandemic has changed a lot of things for a lot of people, and everybody are kind of like going through that rough patch, right? So I think everybody needs a lot of support, and the way that people are standing out is actually like really sharing their stories and why that they need help too. And I think especially students who are coming out of colleges thinking of like having these big dreams of like working for companies and getting these internship opportunities. So what do you tell students who are coming out of colleges right now? I mean, since you're still in the college and kind of like having this whole experience, what would you tell students based upon your experience so far, how to leverage this opportunity? Because everybody is also competing with every other student as well. How to stand out in this whole crowd to make it like really help them?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard, and students are probably feeling so discouraged right now, because they're thinking, okay, I have to compete with someone who has years of experience for me to get an internship, which is probably unpaid as well. And it's a huge struggle. Um, I think what I would say, sorry, could you just repeat the question? I forgot what.
Yeah, that's fine. So what I was asking is like, since you're already getting this experience, what would you tell students that are coming out of college
Okay, yeah.
to like really help them and create their own edge? Because a lot of people need help, and
Mhm.
especially during this time, a lot of people don't have the opportunities, because now the opportunities are less, and the people who are looking for those opportunities are like multiplied by like 10 times, for example.
Yeah.
So how can people like really sharpen their skills? And sometimes, right, getting out of college, you might have got that first opportunity easily, maybe last year, not now, right?
Yeah.
So how can people like really leverage technology, really leverage digital, like that's what you tell, like telling stories in digital to make themselves unique so that they get the opportunity that they deserve?
Yeah, I think what really helped me was just creating a brand for myself and really defining my skill set. So, like, what you are very good at, try to market that as much as possible, like on your LinkedIn, on your social media platforms, on your CV. Try to show exactly what you're good at. Don't try to generalize. Be specific. Be very specific in what your skill set is, so they know that you're the perfect fit for that position. And then definitely, again, try to network as much as possible, because once you've built that brand for yourself and um, made it clear what your skill set is, it's much easier to connect with like-minded people or people that can help you in exactly what you want to do.
Hmm. So again, going back to your like, how did your coursework in college really prepared you to kind of take on all these tools to your advantage? Do you see a match you learn something in class and you're trying to leverage your experience in class and also bringing it onto these social media platforms to create that edge for you?
Right. So, I mean, I studied digital culture. So it's obviously like a lot of the things I study in school, I kind of unconsciously apply into my networking and maybe my social media. I would say like it's kind of, I don't even realize when I do it because I'm so used to learning about it and like working with digital tools that um, I don't even realize what exact part of my course I'm putting into my social media, but I just kind of am. I think one thing that I definitely took away from that was, I learned a lot of statistics about like how much time people are spending online, how much content they want to read. And that's like the first thing, like when I found out that like people only read about 30% of online content, that was something that really shocked me. And that's how I realized that this need for shorter content online on just the general realm of online. So yeah, I feel like that's definitely one thing that I could say I took away and just stuck with.
That's awesome. So when you're talking about the shorter form of content, immediately I think of Twitter, right? Twitter is the
Yeah.
microblogging site, and in fact, now everybody are looking for jobs and internships. Everybody are definitely leveraging LinkedIn more,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of students are still at that stage one to kind of figure that what do they want out of the tool, because there are tons of tools, right?
Yeah, I definitely LinkedIn, I feel like people, because it's a professional platform, people tend to think that, oh, they should be writing a lot. And you should be like sharing these very long stories, or you should just be sharing your achievements. That's a big thing for students. Like they only post if it's to say they graduated college with like a first degree honors, or saying like they graduated high school or had this amazing achievement. But I feel like what should be done more of is sharing their struggles and their difficulties in getting there, because actually that's what students are going to relate to more, and that's what the general audience is going to like more, because they're going to be able to learn from it. Your struggles say much more about you than your accomplishments, I would say. And they say much more about you to other people, and a lot more people can react to it and take something away from it.
That's a great idea, and thanks for sharing that insight. And you also talked recently about remote working as a new norm. What do you think about the whole remote working culture, and how do you see that in the whole digital culture arena? This whole shift, right? Now, until now, we talked about digital products. Now we are thinking about as a new norm, right? Now, how do you define that?
Um, I mean, I'm a big advocate for remote working. I feel like it's helped a lot of people with like their mental health, and you just have more flexibility with your schedule and your time to do whatever you want to do. And I think in my first post, I mentioned how much time you actually save by not commuting to work. So maybe some people do like the commute and it brings something to them, and that's okay. If you want to spend your time like that, that's totally fine. But some people do believe that they could be using that time in a more valuable way. And I think time is like a really valuable commodity, and we should be able to decide how we want to spend it. And it may even increase the productivity of a lot of workers if they were given this fluctivity.
That's awesome, because now it's very interesting how different people are viewing this whole remote working. I think
Yeah.
there is lot that we are going to learn in the coming years.
Yeah, a lot of people are also kind of against it. They're like, oh, we feel like we get a lot out of being with our coworkers, and it's so much easier to communicate if you're in the same workspace. And I don't totally disagree with that. I do believe that there are benefits from coming together in a common workspace. Um, and I do still feel like it shouldn't completely be abolished. Like the physical workplace should still be a thing, but I think people should just have more flexibility and to decide when they want to actually go to the physical workplace and when they would like to work remotely.
That's awesome. And are you also taking the coursework online as well now? Like, what
Uh,
does that experience
yeah,
look like?
I mean, from ever since March, I've been working online. Right now, I'm on summer vacation. But for those few months while we were doing online, I actually had a really good experience with it, and I enjoyed it much more. Um, in some regards, I feel like professors were much more active in replying to like emails, and replying to messages, which maybe they weren't doing so much of before. And I really liked it in that regard. And I also felt like I had more flexibility with my time, and I actually ended up being more productive, and my grades increased while I was working remotely rather than when I had to go into university. But I mean, at the same time, I do appreciate going to university and seeing my classmates and working together. So I think there should definitely be a balance in between those.
I think that's amazing. Like now, hearing from current students who are going through this phase of remote learning, because maybe it might be a hybrid model going forward, or it can be like 80% of it remote. So I think it's very interesting for me to learn directly from students who are like in different parts of the world who are going through the same phase. And do you have? Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
I mean, this year they're actually like King's, my university, is going to be doing kind of like a half structure.
Hmm.
So it's going to be half remote, half in person. So we're actually going to be able to see how that works out, and maybe it's actually better than before. So what they're doing is they're doing lectures, which are like with more people. You'll be able to see those online, but tutorials, which are with less people, you have to go in person. So you still get that cooperation with your classmates, and get to work in teams and stuff like that. So I think that's a really good idea what they're doing.
That's awesome. Like a lot of universities are trying to like see what works and what doesn't, and I think there is there will be a lot of learnings for sure in the next 1 year, which definitely sets the pace.
For sure.
Yeah. So is there any things that you would love to share with the audience?
I mean, I feel like I've shared. One of the last like things I would like students to take away from this is really to use LinkedIn as much as possible, because I feel like even I was afraid to do that, and I saw that it can really like lead you to a better path. So just try to connect with people as much as possible, share your story, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
Like share your challenges, share your struggles. It's okay. We've all gone through it. Like you're not the only one.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Like if anybody who's listening to our show or the podcast, where can they find you to reach out to you if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, of course. I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone and give any advice or any questions that anyone might have. I'm here to answer.
So please definitely connect with Sarah on LinkedIn. I'm going to post the link in the description as well. And thank you so much, Sarah, for spending the time today. And really appreciate you taking the time and also sharing your stories and how you're feeling in the current situation and how you wanted to support other students who are also in the same boat. So thank you so much
Thank you
for
so much.
coming onto the show. Yeah,
It was
take care.
bye bye.
Bye.